Who am I? You sure you want to know? The story of my life is not for the faint of heart. If somebody said it was a happy little tale, if somebody told you I was just your average ordinary guy not a care in the world, somebody lied.
New York City, the city that never sleeps, where the lights are always bright and the streets are always alive. It's a place where dreams are made, and sometimes where nightmares come to life. Noisy with sirens, car horns, and people talking. The cacophony of sounds is a symphony of urban life, a constant reminder that this city is always in motion. People from all walks of life converge here, each with their own story, their own purpose. Even at night, the city was buzzing. The streets were filled with cars, the sidewalks crowded with pedestrians. Neon signs flickered, casting colorful glows on the faces of passers-by. The energy was palpable, electric, and unending. Spider-Man sat on top of the Chrysler Building, looking out at everything. From his vantage point, he could see the entire city sprawled out before him, a living, breathing entity. The city was his responsibility, his to protect. Well, looking might be the wrong word. He was scanning, analyzing, always on the lookout for trouble. His spider sense was his guide, a sixth sense that kept him one step ahead of danger. Patrolling was work, even with the best view ever. The city never rested, and neither could he. Every night was a new challenge, a new test of his abilities and his resolve. Spider-Man. Another night, another dollar. He muttered to himself, a wry smile on his lips. It was a thankless job, but someone had to do it, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Spider-Man talked to himself, fixing his mask. The mask was more than just a disguise. It was a symbol, a reminder of the responsibility he bore. He adjusted it carefully, making sure it was secure. He'd been working for hours, stopping robberies, saving a cat from a tree, again, superhero stuff. It was all in a night's work for Spider-Man. The city depended on him, and he wouldn't let it down. Just when he thought about going home, the ground shook. Buildings wobbled a little. It was a subtle tremor, but enough to set his spider sense tingling. Something was wrong. A low rumble went through the city. It was like a warning, a prelude to something bigger. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. Spider-Man's spider sense tingled, meaning trouble. It was a sensation he knew well, a prickling at the back of his neck that told him danger was near. He had to act fast. He swung towards the trouble, ready for anything. "Spider-Man, showtime," he said, his voice filled with determination. This was what he lived for, the thrill of the fight, the chance to make a difference. He said, shooting a web at a tall building. The webbing shot out with precision, anchoring him to the structure. He swung through the air with grace and agility, a blur of red and blue against the night sky. He landed on the roof, looking around. The city stretched out below him, a maze of lights and shadows. He scanned the area, his eyes sharp and focused. There, in all the city lights, he saw him, Rhino. The massive figure was unmistakable, a hulking brute causing chaos in the streets. Spider-Man's heart raced. This was going to be a tough fight. The huge guy was smashing through Midtown, leaving a mess everywhere he went. Cars were overturned, storefronts shattered, people screamed and ran, trying to escape the destruction. Spider-Man knew he had to stop Rhino before things got even worse. Rhino, a guy in a super-strong Rhino suit, was on a rampage. Cars went flying through the air like they were made of paper. The streets of New York had never seen such chaos. People screamed and ran in every direction, trying to escape the path of destruction. The sheer power of Rhino was evident in every step he took, every object he touched. It was as if a natural disaster had come to life, embodied in this monstrous figure. Streetlights broke when he bumped into them, shattering into pieces and plunging parts of the street into darkness. The sound of metal bending and glass breaking filled the air, adding to the cacophony of panic. Each collision sent sparks flying, illuminating the night with brief, fiery bursts. It was a scene straight out of a nightmare, with Rhino at the center of it all. The ground shook when he walked, each footstep like a mini earthquake. Buildings trembled, windows rattled, and the very foundation of the city seemed to quiver in fear. It was as if the earth itself was trying to escape his wrath. Pedestrians stumbled, struggling to keep their balance as the ground beneath them vibrated violently. He yelled angrily, a loud sound that went through the city, echoing off the buildings and reverberating through the streets. His voice was a roar of pure rage, a primal scream that sent shivers down the spines of anyone who heard it. It was a sound that demanded attention, that commanded fear. "Rhino, out of my way!" Rhino shouted, his voice booming over the chaos. People scattered, desperate to avoid his path. His sheer presence was enough to clear the streets, as if an invisible force was pushing everyone aside. The fear in their eyes was palpable, a testament to the terror he inspired. He punched a fire hydrant with such force that it crumpled like a tin can. The metal bent and twisted under his fist, unable to withstand the sheer power of his blow. It was a display of strength that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Water shot up into the air, getting everyone nearby wet. The sudden burst of water added to the chaos, drenching anyone unfortunate enough to be close by. It was as if the city itself was crying, adding to the sense of pandemonium. The streets quickly became slick and slippery, making it even harder for people to escape. They ran away screaming as Rhino kept smashing things. His rampage seemed unstoppable, a force of nature that couldn't be reasoned with. Every object in his path was either destroyed or thrown aside, adding to the growing pile of debris. The city was being torn apart piece by piece by this unstoppable juggernaut. Spider-Man, okay, maybe looking was the wrong word, Spider-Man said, watching the mess below. From his vantage point, he could see the full extent of the destruction. His heart sank as he realized the magnitude of the task ahead. This wasn't just another villain, this was a catastrophe in the making. He knew he had to do something. The city needed him now more than ever. Every second he hesitated, more lives were put at risk. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for the battle ahead, even if it meant missing his late-night pizza. Again, it seemed like every time he tried to enjoy a moment of peace, duty called. But that was the life of a hero. Sacrifices had to be made, and tonight, it was his pizza. He jumped off the building, aiming for the angry Rhino. The wind rushed past him as he descended, his eyes locked on his target. This was it, the moment of truth. He had to stop Rhino before things got even worse. Spider-Man. "Hey, Rhino, ever heard of anger management?" Spider-Man called out, sounding sarcastic. He hoped to distract Rhino, to buy himself a few precious seconds. His voice was confident, but inside, he knew this was going to be a tough fight. He landed on a lamppost, just missing Rhino's giant fist. The lamppost wobbled under his weight, but he quickly regained his balance. Rhino's fist crashed into the ground where he had been just moments before, sending chunks of concrete flying. Rhino turned, his little eyes angry. They locked onto Spider-Man, filled with rage and determination. This wasn't just a fight for Rhino, it was personal, and he wasn't going to let Spider-Man get in his way. "Rhino, Spider-Man, you again? You're always around," Rhino bellowed, his voice dripping with frustration. It was clear that he was tired of their constant battles, but Spider-Man knew he couldn't back down. The city was counting on him, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Spider-Man laughed, dodging another attack. "Spider-Man, what can I say? I'm unforgettable." He shot a web, swinging around Rhino, who yelled angrily. The web stuck to Rhino's horn, pulling his head back. "Rhino, hey, watch the horns! Took me ages to get them shiny," Rhino complained, pulling at the web. Spider-Man kicked Rhino in the jaw. It made a loud sound, but Rhino didn't even flinch. "Rhino, seriously, that's it? A feather duster hits harder." Spider-Man, "Okay, maybe I'm being nice, but don't say I'm not gentle." They kept fighting, Spider-Man being fast and Rhino being strong. Spider-Man dodged Rhino's attacks and used his webs to slow him down, but Rhino kept going, getting angrier and angrier. Just when Spider-Man thought he was winning, a new voice showed up, a voice that could only be one annoying guy. Deadpool. Did someone say chimichanga and chaos? Deadpool flipped in between Spider-Man and Rhino. He wore his red and black suit with two swords on his back and a big grin on his masked face. "Spider-Man, Deadpool, what are you doing here?" Spider-Man groaned, rubbing his face. This was not what he needed. Deadpool, "Oh, you know, just a normal Tuesday. Saving pretty ladies, fighting bad guys, the usual. Except I'm out of pretty ladies." Rhino, who everyone had forgotten about, looked at the two heroes. "Rhino, are you guys done chatting? I'm kind of busy smashing things here." He took a bite of his chimichanga. "Spider-Man." Oh, for crying out loud, this is going to be a long night. The fight started again, now with 3 people. Rhino charged, throwing things everywhere. Spider-Man dodged, shooting webs, trying to stop Rhino. Deadpool mostly talked instead of fighting. Deadpool, "Ooh, nice punch, Spidey, 2 points." But Rhino gets bonus points for smashing. It's a close one, folks. Spider-Man, Deadpool, shut up and fight. Deadpool fighting? Where's the fun in that? I like to think of it as a game of who can break the most stuff. The fight went on, everyone making a big mess. The fight kept going. Spider-Man was flipping around, Rhino was charging, and Deadpool was being crazy. Deadpool, "Hey, Rhino, you look a little green tonight," Deadpool said, dodging Rhino. Deadpool, "Too much spinach?" Rhino, "Spinach? I hate spinach," Rhino yelled, punching the ground and making a big hole. Deadpool, "See, that's what I'm talking about. You're like a walking, talking wrecking ball," Deadpool yelled, giving Rhino a thumbs up. Spider-Man, Deadpool, "If you're done fanboying over the giant rhino, maybe you could help me stop him." Deadpool, Fine. But only because you asked nicely." Spider-Man and Deadpool decided to work together, even though Deadpool didn't really want to. They made a plan. Spider-Man, ever the optimist, believed that with a solid strategy, they could take down Rhino. Deadpool, on the other hand, was more interested in causing chaos and having fun. Despite their differences, they knew they had to cooperate to succeed. Spider-Man, "Okay, here's the plan. You distract him. I'll web him up from behind." Spider-Man explained his idea with enthusiasm, using hand gestures to illustrate his points. He was confident that if Deadpool could keep Rhino occupied, he could use his webbing to immobilize the villain. Deadpool, "Sounds boring. Can't I just blow something up?" Deadpool's response was typical of his irreverent nature. He wasn't one for subtlety or careful planning. The idea of simply distracting Rhino seemed dull to him. Spider-Man, "No, Deadpool, you cannot blow something up. Just follow the plan." Spider-Man's frustration was evident. He needed Deadpool to take this seriously, but convincing him was proving to be a challenge. Deadpool, "Fine, but this better be good." Deadpool finally agreed, though his skepticism was clear. He wasn't convinced that Spider-Man's plan would be as exciting as his own ideas. Deadpool ran at Rhino, swinging his swords. With a burst of energy, Deadpool charged at Rhino, his swords gleaming. He was ready to create a distraction, even if it wasn't his preferred method. He was surprisingly fast, dodging Rhino's attacks and insulting him at the same time. Deadpool's agility was impressive. He weaved in and out of Rhino's reach, all the while throwing out taunts and insults to keep the villain's attention on him. Deadpool, "Hey, Rhino, is that your real horn, or are you just happy to see me?" Deadpool's humor was as sharp as his swords. His taunts were designed to provoke Rhino, making him angrier and more reckless. While Rhino was yelling at Deadpool, Spider-Man shot special strong webs at Rhino's feet. Spider-Man took advantage of the distraction. He aimed carefully and fired his webs, knowing that they needed to be strong enough to hold Rhino. The webs wrapped around Rhino's feet, making him trip. Rhino's massive frame stumbled as the webs tightened around his legs. The plan was working, and Spider-Man felt a surge of hope. If they could keep Rhino down, they might just win this fight. Rhino fell with a loud thud that shook the buildings. He tried to get up, but the webs held him down. Deadpool? Well, that was easy. I was hoping for more of a challenge. Spider-Man, it's called teamwork, Deadpool. Try it sometime. Deadpool teamwork? Nah, I prefer to work alone. Less paperwork. Spider-Man called the police to take Rhino away. As police sirens got closer, Spider-Man turned to Deadpool. Spider-Man, "Well, I guess that's our cue to leave," he said, shooting a web and swinging away. Deadpool watched Spider-Man go with a mischievous look on his face. He knelt next to Rhino and took out a permanent marker. Deadpool, "You know what would make this even funnier?" He took the cap off the marker and started drawing on Rhino's face, humming a song. Deadpool, "This is going to be epic." He drew glasses and a mustache on Rhino. The police sirens got closer, but Deadpool didn't care. He was too busy drawing. Deadpool, and done. He looked at his drawing and smiled. Then he disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving Rhino with a new face for the police. The night was far from over, and knowing Deadpool, this was just the start of something crazy.